So once again, Dragon's crappy instructions strike. So right here in 7, you've got the travel lock for the gun. Now you can build it open or closed, but they kind of half-ass show you how to put it together if you want to use the travel lock, which if you're in any kind of a combat situation you don't want to use. And it's really poorly done, because if you want to leave it closed, they have this tiny little, very poorly showing how to lock it all up, and what you've done in the previous step is put these two very fragile, tiny little photo etched pieces that you're supposed to pile these 3 tubes in, which don't fit. They're too small and it's completely dicked up. So they should have just done everything styrene, these, you know, a styrene clamps and whatnot. And I just went through and found some unused pieces, glued them onto the back right here. It's totally dicked up, but you know, there's not much more you can do, because the photo etch is completely useless. It's far too light and tiny little mounting points that there's no possible way it's going to hold any of this stuff up. So you know what, it looks okay. It's not perfect, but it doesn't suck too badly, so I've just left it like that. Okay, so what I would suggest, guys, once you're ready to, I'm at a point now where I pretty much need to paint the lower hull to get the fenders on, so we can start working on the turret. Now, they have you doing all this little busy work first, like putting guns and details onto the turret. Don't do that. Don't do that. Get your base and your turret and your gun. Get that ready to go. Get that squared away before you start adding your details, because sure in hell, by the time you get the top and the bottom plate glued on and filled in, all this stuff will be broken off and you'll be foobarred. So do not follow the instructions at this point and jump across and do number 16, and then you can roll back and put the details onto your turret. We've got the bottom hull of this M103 painted up. The first thing I did was gave everything a shot of Vallejo black air quotes primer. Don't think of it as a primer in the conventional terms that you can manipulate it, that you can sand, you can do something with it. Just think of it as a base coat. I do black just to give it a good shadow in case you miss with your main color. You've got black in there. It gives the color a lot more depth, and it just makes a nicer, deeper, richer color. Now on the tires, what I did was instead of using black, I used RLM dark gray, and that gives it more of a rubber effect. And then just used one of those cheap templates, the big plastic templates with multiple different circles in it, and just put that on top of the road wheels and shot the green color. Now for the green, I'm using Vallejo Model Air 15 olive green. I thought it was a good match for 1950s American armor. And as you can see, I've done the undersides of the fenders as well. Left the tops done, still some paint to do. And I also gave the tracks their first coat of paint. Now keep in mind that this Vallejo stuff is really quite fragile until you get a coat of primer, until you get a coat of gloss on it. It will pretty much just flake off at a harsh word. So be careful with this stuff until you have a clear coat on it, be it Vallejo or Tamiya or whatever your preference of clear coat is. I've lately been using a lot of Tamiya gloss and Tamiya clear flat. Tamiya clear flat in the bottles is getting really tough to find. Everything is getting tough to find in this day and age, especially with the Canadian economy gone to absolute crap. Not a lot of hobby stores. Quite a few. Most of our good hobby shops have shut down in Calgary. It's tough to find things anymore. And mail order, well, once again, if you're dealing in US dollars, I think our dollar is somewhere around 73 cents to the US dollar. It's just not economically viable to order stuff from the States anymore. So a lot of times when you find it, you need to buy three or four bottles of each things. But I'm rambling now. Back to the 103. As you can see, it's got a really odd, it's not one of the best, it's an odd Dragon kit. It's some of the things that they've done on this kit is really weird. Their locating pins are strange. They're not very deep. They're shallow. They're inconsistent, and that's not something I see. You know, one thing that's Dragon has definitely kept up on is their crappy directions on this kit, and their lousy photo etch. One piece barrel has been nice. I thought the suspension was going to be a real see you next Tuesday to put together, but it actually turned out to be not too bad of a build. It's detailed, it looks really good, and a little bit of paint and weathering in it, and it's going to look pretty awesome there. So yeah, let's carry on. Okay, these tracks have been, and the running gear has been real trying. The locating pins for the road wheels are really tiny, so I glued them down, let them sit for about a couple hours, let them cured right up before I try to roll them on. Now the other set of tracks, the problem with these tracks is that these holes right here were much too small, so I had to heat up a drill bit and melt them larger, so I got them glued up, which is okay, but then they're so thin here, the glue opened them right up. So we're gonna go old school here. Used to do this with the old Tamiya tracks. Staple them. At least try and staple them. Not terribly impressed right now with an $89 kit that we have to staple the tracks together. Circa 1975. Like I said, I have no problem with these with this type of track, but the fact that everything here was all warped and it was a complete mess to try and get on. Be very careful if you decide to build one of these guys. These are just, the running gear is poorly designed. I don't know why Dragon went back old school like that so much. It really does baffle me as to why they did what they did. And as you can see here, I'm even going back a little bit farther just to add some more to these track links. And when you put them on, you got to be incredibly careful, because you have to glue. You know, if they would have just used a really nice long plug, like, you know, the old school Tamiya does, with the poly cap in it, you can just put them in, run the poly cap in, you know, Bob's your uncle, it's nice and snug. But all these have to be glued tight, so you have to be incredibly careful when you put these on. So we'll start at the back. We'll get the back in. They do fit nice and snug in. Like, they look alright, they look fine. And then you just have to be very carefully to roll them on. And there you go. You've got your track links in. But be incredibly careful with these guys, because the mounting points are fragile. And we'll have to just add a little bit more color, and we'll throw some Tamiya on top of this and get these tracks painted up. But yeah, it's coming along. Okay, so here's another alert with Dragon's effed up directions. Let's go way back to step number 3 right here. They'll have you put on A7 and 8 early. Don't. Those are supports for the front fenders. Keep those off until you get to, well, quite literally step 11, because they have to line up with the supports off of B17 and B16. Also be aware that they've got them dicked up. 16 and 17 are opposite. 16 needs to be on the left and 17 needs to be on the right. So, or 17 on the right, 16 on the left. The directions are dicked up as usual. Alright, back to 103. I'm not sure where I left off. I've been away for about a week from building this. Yeah, went to work for a little while, and I went out in the boonies to go do some deer hunting, and just got back here a couple days ago. So we've added a little bit of battle damage to the turret. This is going into a diorama. It's not the worst kit I've built. It certainly isn't the best kit I've ever built. Probably would give it, out of 5 right now, a 2.5, maybe a 3-star. Directions have been meh. Fit's been meh. Photo etch is poor. What photo etch there is not been very good. Poorly thought out. For what they supplied, they didn't need to. Anything they supplied in photo etch could have been just as done as well, maybe even better in plastic. So once again, find this at a discount, guys. Don't buy this at a full premium price of. I think they're going from anywhere from $80 to I've seen anywhere from $80 to $100. And I was just in the hobby shop yesterday, and I just about puked. They wanted $149 for a very old Tamiya F-117 stealth fighter with a little bit of photo etch. $100 for the old Tamiya T55. $100 for the old Tamiya King Tiger with the Porsche turret, which is an old kit. So I don't know whether these guys, where they're buying it from. I know our dollar's not that bad, but the pricing in some of the local hobby shops on Tamiya has gotten stupid. So I'm not sure what's happened there. I have a feeling they're buying from a U.S. distributor and paying U.S. dollars, and then disproportionately pumping it up to, bend over the hobbyists. And I'm thinking that some of these prices are strictly because of Christmas coming up, and they're geared towards the person who doesn't really know what the cost of a kit should be, and they're buying it for a gift. So anyway, back to this 103 versus Economics 101. It's coming right along. The bottom running gear is done. It's a little fiddly. It's nicely detailed. It's a little fiddly, but pay attention. Look at the directions multiple times. Dragon directions. Oh God, they're bad. A lot of things I think I pointed out some of the building pitfalls earlier on, especially in locating these front fender studs and all that kind of stuff. So let's get back at her, guys. M103. I know it's supposed to be a build. I'm supposed to be showing you as I build it, but yeah, well, I'm terrible at that. I'm trying. So we've added some battle damage. Added some antennas, which will probably get broken off. I know me. I've got some, the seams on the jerry cans were just horrendous. So that's on there. I've got a couple little pieces of photo etch to put on, and she's just about done. I want to put the 50 cal on, but I need to find a proper cradle for it because they just sent along a very skimpy, thin little photo etch 50 cal cradle on it. So yeah, that won't work. So basically, we're just about ready to throw some primer on the rest of this puppy and get her painted up.